So finally, it is that time of the day that I can sit down and make a video. This is probably my favorite thing to do, and I shouldn't save it for last, but today I've been working on my website, which is not up yet, and my Instagram and my Facebook, and um, I I have been working on it all day and I love it. And I'm meeting new people and it's exciting. And I'm very happy with how it's going. It's work and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of hours. My cat's here to say hello, I guess. And here I am though with a video, which is actually, this is kind of just rest and relaxation for me. So I am going to share my screen, but before I do, I'm going to go through 4 steps in this video: orientation, distribution of space, shapes, light source, and patterns. And that's kind of the way I pre-think about things before I set up a drawing. And I think that that might help for you to see that. I teach that over and over because it allows us to kind of communicate in the same language. If there's a problem and it's made in the shape stage, you correct it there. If it's a problem that's made in the orientation stage, which is is it vertical? Is it horizontal? It needs to be fixed in that stage. So this is one instance where Einstein is wrong, where his supposedly it was addressed. See, my words are gone. I'm talking too much already today. But Einstein said you can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. But in art, you should and you can. So I'm not talking anymore. Okay, we're going to share screen. I'm still going to talk, but you know what I mean. We're going to talk about drawing. Okay, I've got a 3x5 card here. That is so when I set things up, you guys know generally what size I'm using. This is the pear. I was going to say potato because it is a potato pear. When they're in black and white, grayscale, they can go either way. You can see the graphite on this, lots of it in those shadow areas. I'm going to be drawing on colored pencil today, paper. This is an art card. So this is a Bristol and really smooth surface. So I'm going to do a colored pencil, a little bit toothier surface. And these are the 5 categories, the 5 things I want to look at about this pear. There's the pear. Okay. So orientation, it's up and down. If it were this way and I were drawing it that way, then I would probably lay my paper out this way. So in terms of orientation, I'm going to go up and down. And that just means that I'm going to take my 3x5 card. I'm going to put it on this piece of paper. I'm going to trace an outline. I think it's a lot easier for you to see if there's actually a border around it. Voila. So as you can see, I've got a mark on my paper. I'm going to try and include the pear over that. I've got a really dirty eraser here. That's terrible. And the reason it's terrible is because it smears. I've got to clean that one. Okay, so I've got a good one now. Eraser. So that is the orientation. The second thing I consider is distribution of space. And on this, I'm going to have my pear roughly in half of my piece of paper. And I'm going to have it on some sort of ground or setting. So that's my bottom line. So that's my distribution of space. Let me try and get this line out of here. It's confusing. Okay. The next thing is going to be shapes. So when I look at a pear, I notice that there are shapes in this. There's kind of a big circle. I'm going to put that circle with the point, the bottom, kind of emanating right from this point right here. So if I have a circle like this, I'm going to draw half the circle this way. I'm going to wobble this side a little because pears tend to be a little wobbly, but in general, there's a circle wobbled a bit. Then the top is also, if you look at a pear, all pears have strange looking tops. So I'm going to do a shape like this maybe, and then something that comes down over here. So just a very organic shape. on top of a circle. So I'm kind of just sketching this out lightly, and you can tell the light is going because once again, it's 4:28, but hey, it's still light out here in Illinois. And then I'm going to pop a stem on like this, put that hole where it's going to go, kind of put it right. So there, that's what I've got at the top of this. I'm going to notice that about out to here, I'm going to make just a dark line from where that dot is, just about, it's probably half an inch, 2/4, yeah, about half an inch, that line. So that's going to be my reminder to where my shadow is going to go. So that's what I know about the setup if I do up to shapes. And now my light source. So I'm going to pick a light source. I always pick this side, so let's go this side. I'm going to put my light source. Imagine that corner sun, you know, this. There we go. A little symbolic drawing here, but here's my light source. And that tells me that roughly here and roughly here, there's going to be a shadow, a highlight, a light area because it's light. That also tells me that on the back of this circle shape, I'm going to be able to put some shadow back here, and I'm going to be able to put a little shadow along the back side of this. So I'm kind of just blocking that in. This is just what I know from these things. Patterns, if I were drawing a landscape, patterns might look something like this. I would see patterns of trees maybe. And here there really isn't patterns. When I think of a pear, the only thing that makes me think of patterns is going to be the dots on the pear. So maybe my patterns are my surface covering, which will be the final thing I show the viewer, is the surface of the pear. Right now I'm working on the shape and the structure of the pear. Kind of the form of the pear is what I'm trying to get at. So those are the steps that I've gone through. And I have light source here and then on paper. And the reason I have it on paper is because when we look at this pear, one really great way to engage your viewer is to put a highlight that suggests that the viewer is seeing it. This highlight refers directly to my eyes. I'm sitting right above this, but if you look at this too, these two highlights, this light area here and this light area here, they reflect to you, my viewer, and they draw you in a little bit more than if the light was just on this side. So where I put this dark area, I've kind of intended that to be the pear is dark there, and I've really pushed my highlight over further. So here's the highlights that are from this paper sun, and here's the highlights that are going to be on it when it's finished. The reason I do kind of this fake out paper sun, which is what this is, the on paper light source, is because it gives you an opportunity to create a little bit more of the illusion that there's form. If my light source is here, all the shadow is going to be on the back side, and it's really not going to help me help you, the viewer, see what I want you to see, and this is three-dimensional. So that's why I've got these two light sources, and I'll refer to that as we go through this. I tuck this in over here. So the first thing I like to do with something like this is I'm going to get myself another one of these cards. I only have like 10 of these laying around, and I've cleaned my studio. So of course I can't find them. This is an 8B. So I'm just drawing up a lot of graphite on this piece of paper, breaking my pencil point, but hey, I'm almost done with that. Fortunately, in the lineup, I have a 6B, a 4B, and a 2B. So what I have for tools, the reason I have this is because I can grab it quick when I'm doing these videos. Otherwise, I have to look at these, and depending on the glasses, I either see or don't see what's written on there. The other thing I have is a brush, so I get used to using this and not my fingers, otherwise it really smears. I have this lovely little mono zero eraser, and I have a big fat kneaded eraser. So that's what I've got. And this little guy, where at least it's dirty back here, not where I'm going to be erasing. So that's what I got. Those are the tools. I'm blowing on that. That's easier than the brush right now. So I've got all this built up. I know generally my drawing layout, I've got a circle. So I know when I draw a circle, I can draw it out like this. Just switch over to this. So here's my circle. And let's say that's the base of my pear. And let's say this is the top of my pear. So there's my pear. So I already know, looking for my 4B here, I already know that I've got a fairly decent pear shape going here. So when I know that I have the circle, that tells me, where did I put my light source on? Okay, over here. That tells me then that I can shade the far side because it's away from the light, and I can shade the far side of a circle. So if I take that circle out and give you this, what I'm doing is taking this shape, which is just the circle, but by shading back here, giving you a mid-tone here and lightening across, making a really nice gradient blend, I'm starting to give you, that's what I get right there. I just watch the screen instead of watching my drawing. The lesson there, eyes on the drawing. All right, I'm going to erase that out. Okay, but you can see it's starting to look three-dimensional, especially if I go back in here and pull out a little more highlight. But you can see how I really am starting to be able to help you see that, hey, yeah, this thing is rounded for sure. If I give you a little more information about how its edges are finished, and here's that little line again. If I put something like this in, that helps you in your understanding that, hey, this is a sphere. So that's the information that I'm looking to put in from everything that I know here. I've drawn it out, I've gone through those steps, and I just have a very light sketch. And those are my outlines. And now I want to fill it in. So I've got my big pile of graphite here. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because most of the information is in shadow, is in shading. So I'm trying to figure out where I can put this so you can see it. There we go. So really digging into my graphite here. Look at that beautiful graphite. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to shade back here. Right over my dot where that shadow is, I can kind of fill this. You can see I'm getting a really nice blend already because I'm not using a pencil yet. Well, I am, but it's over there. So I'm just bringing this in. I know that I don't want this line down the center. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that out. I'm really going to jot out these because I really don't want any lines on this because in a light area, you're going to see those. I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to lighten up this a little bit. I really don't want the viewer to go, a circle with a weird top. But that really helped me in setting it up. On something like this, could you just draw it? Absolutely, you could just draw it. But as things get more complex, like a face or a landscape, it's great if you have this kind of shorthand that you can help yourself out with. Because when you can do a gestalt drawing like this and kind of capture what you know in your mind about a pear, you'll be surprised at how much you actually do know about what a pear looks like. I looked on the internet, pears are shaded in every way imaginable in graphite. So there really is no right or wrong way with drawing a pear. Pears look weird. All right, so what I'm doing besides dissing how the pears look is putting in the shading. The reason I'm putting shading here into here is because this is a circle. This really helps me understand I can put shading into this area. I also know that this is going to come up. See how you can see that circle right here, even in the finished drawing? I want to help you see that as the viewer. So I put shadow into these areas. Eventually, it's not going to really look like I'm showing you the circle. I mean, it does because I just pointed that out. You can definitely see a little potato circle right here. And I'm doing that, but I'm doing it in shading and really light like this. I'm going to model it when I'm all done so it looks like the surface of the pear. Over here on the bottom, I'm going to pop in a little bit more darkness here. And if you look, I'm looking at my screen now, and you're looking at my screen. Great. But if you look at this, watch how it really starts, depending on where I shade, it starts looking round. I'm giving it form. So I'm giving information to you by filling in this area, and I'm going kind of right for that highlight. And I'm just going to close it down. This is the only white area. I'm just dotting into it super lightly, adverb. So a ly sound at the end. Okay. Going in back here, ramping up the dark because there's my paper light source. And this is also helping you understand that this is circular. So all I'm doing is I'm ramping up my dark areas. So all this looks like, and if like, okay, that's a dark, weird area, I'm just going to blend it in. Maybe that'll look all right later. All this is very changeable. That's why graphite. Oh, I just had something on my mind I wanted to tell you. Okay, it'll come to me. So shading in, that made me understand. All right, what I'm doing and how do I know where to shade? Okay, here's that circle again. So in our circle, imagine this kind of thing. Here's my sun. So I've got options here, and I'm going to show you those options in two different ways. Imagine this. All right, what I'm doing is I'm making a pretty clear gradient blend, okay? And because it's rounded, I'm going to round those edges a little because rounded shapes have that nice kind of curve to them. Think of the moon. You get a crescent, quarters it goes across, but when you're shading circles, there's a crescent back here and there's going to be a white crescent up here. I'm just making a little bit more mid-tone blend until I'm sure, and then I'm going to go in and very lightly, but can you see that crescent? So if you think about the moon with this, you're kind of getting that. I'm exaggerating it, but that's kind of what you're getting. Here is your mid-range. Here's your dark. So what it looks like is this, a gradient blend, right? Or a value scale using 3 colors. And colors is a bad choice of words here. 3 shades of, say that fast, 3 shades of gray. That's what I'm doing. Here's my dark, here's my medium, here's my light. That's what I'm doing. Dark, medium, light. It's a gradient. That's all it is. So when I come back to here, that's exactly what I'm putting down. If this is my mid-tone range right here, like here's my crescent, right? If this is my midtones, I've got to leave the highlight. So I'm losing some midtones right here. But light source here, it's going to be lightest right in here and then midtones. That means this needs to go much darker back here than it is. So at some point, I'm going to be putting this in here. I'm going to bring it up darker. And I don't want this crescent showing. So I'm still going to keep blending it in. And I'm going to build up the darks on my pear this way. So coming across, and you can see how I'm really pushing the center out because anything that's light comes towards you and the dark goes away. So think of this way too. If you've got an eyeball and someone's staring right at you, very wide-eyed, here's what you're seeing, right? Here's their cute little eyeball inside their eyeball. There you go. And they're staring right at you. This is the part closest to you, that part in the middle of the bullseye. So that expresses as concave surface. So if I put this right here, you've got that. That's the closest part to the viewer. So if you make that white, it's really going to make this look like it's a convex surface, like it bumps out. And you can see that illusion's already starting to happen. And I'm controlling it because of where I'm putting my graphite. So at this point, I'm not really caring whether this looks like a pear in my head so much. I am thinking about it as a gradient blend with my dark, my medium, and this will be my light over here going across a circular shape. So, and what circular shape means to me is there's a specific way that I put my lights and darks in terms of this crescent, a mid-tone range, and the other light. So now I'm going to go up to this weird top shape. It's really not a shape, but if my son's here, I know I can put some dark right in here and maybe only just in there. Maybe that's the only real dark place I'm going to have. Maybe I don't want it to be looking like it's so pinched off right here, but it doesn't matter. I can erase into this. So what I'm doing is I'm going up the far side of the pear. I'm just filling this in. I'm trying to force another bunch of highlights kind of down the center. That's where this is. You can see there's kind of this big area right here. That's this. There's kind of another one that's going to be here and another one here. That helps your eye go here and then bounce to here and then here. And then you're up to the stem. This is kind of the point of interest here outside of this. And then even though this is a very simple composition, this comes around like this. Your eye goes back down, shoots into the shadow, and you play the game again visually. This you erase, but for right now, we're not gonna. So that's what I'm trying to do. And the reason I'm trying to push these highlights is I know I can use highlights. Well, on this one, highlights were over here because here's my sun. So here are the highlights that I get to play with in the dark because the sun is on the paper. Here's the highlight I leave for the viewer so that the viewer is participating and they're the ones actually viewing it. I didn't just leave the darkness over on that side. So filling this in, shutting this highlight, I'm actually going to gently go over this and dull it down a bit. And you can see how it's starting to take away from that curve. And what I mean by that is this and this are becoming the same tone. So you're losing a bit of the illusion. It's working right here, but then over here it flattens out. So I'm using the fact that on the underside of the pear, I can pretend and I can play a little bit right here and put a little more darkness in. So watch what happens when I put that in. It lifts it back up. And you see how it starts making this look round again? And if you don't like the way it's looking, if you want to change it and you say, okay, I really liked it the way it was. For me, one of the best things to do, this is my kneaded eraser. I'm just pinching off a little bit. And I've got it just in a little pinch, no shape. But see how easy it is to go in? I'm literally lifting up almost this whole area over here. So now I can go right into my sun. You're going to see a dot. That's how much it lifts up. So if I really make this a point, let's see if I can do this left-handed so you can actually see. Well, does that help? I'm going in and I'm just lifting out down my sunny side, which is there. So I've got kind of a different pear wobble thing going, and I kind of like that. I like the way it looks up here. I like the way the highlight is up here, and I like the way this looks. This to me is too much of a big shape, so I'm just blending this in. I like that highlight there. I love this little light part here, and all this is just kind of accidental. It shows up as you're playing around for me with the kneaded eraser. So I'm going in just blending a little bit. And this is so totally subjective. This is what's up to you. Either you have a pair in front of you or you're really following my video, but I would look something up online as well, just so you understand where these highlights are on a real pair. It's a lot easier if you see where they are and then you can back manipulate them on yours and make it so that it's helping the viewer really understand the information you're giving them. So that's pretty much for me the pear done. I didn't do a lot of shading on this. If I wanted to go in and make it darker here, this is a 4B. You can see how much darker I can go than what my darkest was. And that's why I'm saying the higher B's for last. And that's why I'm not putting these on right away. That's why I'm doing it with a blender first. I have my pear the way I like it, and now I'm going to finish it. So I'm outlining just back here because I know this is my shadow side. I've got some floating graphite out here, so I'm going to have to bring my pear over it. It's easier, I think, in something as wobbly shaped as a pear to bring that out rather than erase. Erasing is rough because it's going to smear. It can be done, and I would do it with this if you have to, but I just incorporated it and made my pear a little fatter. So I'm actually going to turn the page, and I am just going into that dark line And I'm just blending it. So you can see I'm just, again, it's a gradient blend. So even though I put a black line in, I don't want you to see that. I want it to be a really nice smooth transition from my darkest area up into my lightest area. So I'm just using this. Could I get a smaller one of these blender sticks? Sure. And I have them, but I don't know. I'm just used to using the big one. So there's the side of my pear over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little mono zero. I am erasing down here because I want to make sure everything is off of this and making sure it's really clean. And now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to erase these little crazy bits along here. I'm using my brush so it doesn't smear. I'm going to blend a little bit more into the bottom. And then right here, I'm going to go over this area and I'm going to put my shadow in. And for me, it's going to run right over into the edge of my paper. So it looks like my pear is almost impossibly balanced on top of this shadow. So to remember, here is my dot in the center. Just to over here, I'm going to drop this down a teeny little bit right down here. Give you another line right here. Ha, I was watching my screen again. That's dangerous. And I'm just going to pull a line back. The difference between pulling a line is when I'm pulling a line, I'm just going like this, incremental little movements instead of this. You tend to press harder, a little bit harder to erase every step of the way on here. I want to leave myself the opportunity to erase until I am sure I don't. Really light over here because I really don't want a heavy line over here. So I might actually, instead of going in with my blender, I'm going to use this as an eraser. Now I'm not so, sorry, as a blender. I'm not so worried if there's stuff on the tip right now because I'm not erasing, I'm blending. So what I'm doing is I'm holding it about halfway so I really don't have a lot of pressure like I do when I'm erasing. Holding it here and I'm laying it, it's kind of pointed at the end and I'm laying that point and just lightly pulling down. I really want to get rid of that line, but I still want it there. So now I am looking at my screen because I can see it better. All right, so there, and I'm blending that in a little bit right there. So now that I've done that, that line isn't quite so obvious. I'm going over here, wiping this off a little. I don't want to add a lot of color to this, but I do want to blend right into where my line was and right over it. Don't mind that there's a line down here at all. Happy with that because I can blend that into this bottom. And that gives me this nice reflected light down here. Going over that shadow, I'm just blending that whole area now. And then I did go in little teeny squiggly weird things like this. And then here's my eraser, using it as an eraser. And I am literally doing little teeny dots, little white dots. And they really give the impression of this surface of the pear. I'm breaking up this line kind of right here. You can see where it's dark. I like the color transition, but it's too much here to here to here and then around. So I'm breaking up that circle a little bit, but it's also giving you, the viewer, a lot of information that could be construed as texture. And this is the pattern I was talking about. The pattern here is going to be the surface of this pear, all these dots. So once I've got that in, like even down here, big, huge, nice area, just the suggestions of it. Okay, this thing looks speckled now, I get it. But all I'm doing is I'm putting those suggestions in. Now, this is either this expensive blending tool right here, and the reason I'm using this is because I don't want the point and I don't want graphite. Smear is what I'm looking for. And I'm just smearing. Plus, how much fun is this? So all I'm doing is smearing lightly. I'm controlling the pressure and I'm blending in so it looks less like the surface of Mars and more like a pear again, because we're going for smoothness and that looked really cratery. So it's all still there. So now when I've done that, now I'm going to go back in because this will push into these white dots. It's going to get rid of some of them. So I'm just going in now and I'm smearing over and putting back in almost the same shape, but now I'm just smoothing this because I really want your takeaway to be it's smooth. It's not pockmarked. It's not made of cheese. It's a pear. Okay, so that kind of be my pear. All right, up here. Look at this. This is apparently, oh no, I did finish the stem. When I post, I guess the color one doesn't have, oh, I was going to show you the color one, but it's not here. All right, well, I'm going to do a color video about this next. So, hey, the stem, can't leave that out. So I'm going in, let's do a 4B. And the reason why I have 4B is because I want kind of a nice smear. So I'm putting in a teeny little circle kind of underneath that insertion point. Light source is here. That's going to mean I get a shadow up the back side of this, and maybe I can put a little drop down underneath. That's all I'm going to outline on that is just, here's my stem. I didn't outline this side of it, and I didn't outline the top of it. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blender, just going to go up, and I'm just going to go run along it, little circle at the end, and come back down. So back down. A little shadow off here. That is it. And then right here, I'm just going to pick up teeny bit of white. Get rid of that. Again, get rid of everything on here and go back in and erase out all of this. Magically, the sun disappears. And that, what? Nope. This is a sad straight line down here. That needs to go. And I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to pretend that it's hanging on the edge of nothing. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. So that is the pear. So practice that. That is the deal though, that beautiful gradient blend and being able to make it dark, medium, and light with almost a completely invisible transition. That's what this means. Invisible transition. All right. So color one coming next. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your comments too. Mwah.